I'm going to show you 5 different crafts that you can make for either yourself or for your Valentine. So let's get started. So first I'm going to show you how to do the Till Death Do Us Part necklace. So first you're just going to gather your supplies. This necklace is made with rose quartz, as well as 2 little skull beads. You can pretty much get those anywhere, and just some simple black beads to finish it off. So then you're just going to get some cording or a chain, anything that you'd really like. I just went with a simple cording. You're just going to string those on. The pattern for this is 3 black beads, a skull, the crystal, and then a skull and 3 more black beads. So you're just going to put that on. It's pretty simple, but it's a nice touch. Rose quartz jewelry is a very nice idea for a Valentine or for a loved one. It is the crystal that symbolizes love as well as affection. You're just going to want to make sure that you add knots at the end of where your beads are sitting, just to make sure that they don't go anywhere when the person's wearing it. Yep, so it's all sturdy, and that's how it turned out. So then you're just going to want to cut it to size and tie it off. You're going to want to make sure that you tie it a few times. I went ahead and used a lighter just to finish off those ends, just to make sure that they don't untie or fray. So next I'm going to show you 2 different cards that I created. First one is called the Thank You for Loving Me card. Both of these cards have the same instructions for actually making and cutting the physical paper, so you're just going to measure that just to see what size it is. I believe that mine was 14 by 11, measuring out 4 3/4 of an inch from each side because I wanted to make sure that there was an overlap. Then using some tape, I just drew out those 2 circles and cut those out. As you can see, those overlap together, and then you can just cut off any excess. So next you're just going to go ahead and paint those roses on there. I decided to do a red rose for my first one. So you're just going to layer on that paint. I'm using watercolor, and you can try to just go in a circular motion. Make sure that the circle isn't too perfect, that has breaks in it, because that'll give you a more realistic flower. And then you can go ahead and add some green, since that's a complementary of red, to add a little bit of shadow in there. For the second flower, I decided to go ahead with a purple. So here I'm just mixing that on some palette paper. And then you're just going to do the same thing that you did with the red. This one ended up being a little watery, so I just kind of built up that color. And yeah. So you're going to leave that to dry and then flip that around. And here I'm going to just make the border for our text inside of the card. So I'm just going to add a nice green color to kind of border that off. I went with green so that it would kind of go along with the flower theme, and add a little green element to kind of symbolize the leaves of the flowers. So then we're just going to paint the backs of our flowers. You could paint them the same way, but I decided to just do a nice wash. And here I'm going to lay out some tape and make a little border. So I'm using some gold craft paint. You're just going to layer that on. You're going to want to make sure that you leave it to dry between layers. Craft paint, if you're using craft paint is a little bit watery when you get the metallic colors. So then once that's dry, you can just peel that off, and then you have a nice border to write your text between. So here I just decided to write my message. I always recommend using a pencil before you go with pen, and I'm giving this to Jay, so I just personalized it for them. And then I went ahead with a metallic Sharpie to just cover that up. Then you're going to find some photos and use some rubber cement to put those on the back of your flowers. I think it's a really nice touch to add some personalized photos to different cards. It just adds a nice personal element in a very easy way. Here I'm adding some hearts to create a border around those pictures. I did this by kind of just adding little dots to measure out how I wanted the heart to sit and then connecting those. And on the front, we're just writing our text. I started by writing "love you" on it and just went over that with a metallic Sharpie. I ended up changing that to "I love you" with a little heart just so it could fill the space a little better. You can also use your Sharpie to fill in any gaps. So that's how that first card turned out. And then the next one is the Written in the Stars card. This one is inspired by zodiacs and astrology. So I'm just going ahead and starting with the inside of this card. So here I'm just blending some black watercolors along with some different colors that you might see in a galaxy or a sky. Adding some blue, some greens, reds, just a lot of different colors. And then as you go, you can add some salt. If you've ever used salt with watercolor before, it leaves a very nice texture. Just blending that out to all of the edges. Then you can just add more salt as you go along. That's how it looks when it's drying. You can see that it started building up some of that texture. And then you can remove your salt. You'll want to make sure that's completely dry when you do this step. On the front of the card, you can create your border with a metallic Sharpie or paint. I chose to do a Sharpie just because that's the easiest way for me. And then I printed off some zodiac constellations and just add those on with rubber cement. So this first one is the Taurus constellation, which is my sign, and the second one is the Aries constellation, which is Jay's. So on the back, I just wrote some traits that fit us as well as our zodiac signs. We're both very into astrology. So for Jay, I wrote adventurous, passionate, energetic, and bold, which I think fits them very well, and just went over with metallic Sharpie. I put stubborn, loyal, determined, and patient for myself, which I'm pretty sure fits me. And yeah, so you're just going to add some finishing touches, write your message and border. I just wrote "Written in the Stars" with a little note from me. Since this is a darker background, you're going to want to make sure that you layer on that metallic Sharpie just to make sure that shows up really well. And there we have it. So that's how it turned out. Our next DIY is a lavender salt scrub. So here's the ingredients that I'm using. I'm just going to list those on the screen. I started by just adding a cup of salt and then half a cup of coconut oil just to add that mix. I ended up adding another quarter of coconut oil later on. I like having a very whipped consistency for my salt scrubs. So here I'm just adding that into my mortar. I ended up adding some vitamin E oil. I'm using lavender essential oil, and then I ended up adding some dried lavender as well for some texture. With your pestle, you're just going to grind that in, make sure that's very smooth. This will take a minute to really make sure that's all the same consistency. You can really add as much or as little coconut oil as you'd like. That just determines how dry your salt scrub ends up being. So here I'm just adding that to a jar and finishing it off with some lavender. Then you can create a little label. Here I'm just cutting out a little heart from some scrapbook paper I had and just sticking that right on top there. And you can put your loved one's initials on that just to personalize it a little bit more. So next I'm going to show you how to make a smudge stick. So first you're going to want to dry some flowers. You could also get some dried flowers at the store, but I like drying them myself, so I feel like it adds a little nice touch to it. So here I'm just untying that and grabbing some flowers that I would like, just kind of sneaking those out, as well as some lavender that I bought from the store. Just cutting that to size, just making sure that they would fit together pretty well. It's nice to kind of hold the different flowers, see how they fit, and just kind of come up with a plan. Then you're going to get some cording or twine, and I ended up tying that at the center of my first flower with the stem to just kind of tie the rest of the flowers around that stem so that they have that extra layer of strength to them. You're going to want to make sure that you knot this a few times as you go just to keep it really sturdy. Once you get a decent base for this, you can add some lavender to that, and really whatever you'd like. I decided to go with rose and lavender because I think it's romantic and definitely very fragrant. Once you have all of those flowers on there, you can just wrap your twine around that more just to make sure that it's as tight as possible. I think that smudge sticks are a nice way to really fill the room with some air and some nice energy. I think a lot of people tend to get candles but forget about other options, so I think they're a nice touch if you want to try something a little different. So those are all of the Valentine's Day DIYs that I have for you guys. I hope you liked today's video. I post every Sunday and Wednesday. I have a lot of nice things planned for you guys, so stay posted, and I'll see you later.
If you'd like to see more content, please hit subscribe.